And I discovered there are 5 foods that make you diabetic and keep you in a diabetic state. And there are 5 superfoods that will help to control and stabilize your blood glucose level and reverse the disease. And I'll get into that. The one other thing I just wanted to mention is that it took about 3.5 months for me to wean myself off the insulin. And according to the doctors, well, Dwayne, you no longer have diabetes, but we know that can't be true. We need to run some more tests. And my endocrinologist, he was very upset with me because he said, Dwayne, we're obviously doing something wrong in the lab, and your hemoglobin A1C is better than mine, and that can't be because you are diabetic. And there is no cure for diabetes, so you must be doing something wrong. And I said, okay, so what should I do? Well, Dwayne, you got to go back on the insulin. I said, well, why? Because you are diabetic and you can't beat this disease. Dwayne, you are going through the honeymoon period. Now, I've heard of a honeymoon. I was married once. I remember the honeymoon, and I don't remember this being anything like a honeymoon. And so he said the honeymoon would last 3 months. I said, okay, this is a different honeymoon. And after 3 months, your blood glucose level will return to the high levels, and you'll have to go back on insulin. So we waited 3 months. After 3 months, it was better. My average glucose level at the time was 87.5. My hemoglobin A1C was 4.5%. Doctor said, okay, Dwayne, we got 3 more months. 3 more months, he didn't even show up at the appointment. He left a message with the physician assistant. The physician assistant said, Dwayne, I have a message from the doctor. I said, oh, because I'm thinking it must be bad news. The doctor didn't even show up. And she said, Dwayne, your readings they're phenomenal. Your hemoglobin A1C is 4.3%. She said, a non-diabetic can't get that low. I said, oh, okay, but that's good, right? She goes, oh yeah, it's good. I said, okay, so where's the doctor? She goes, well, he wanted me to tell you that you're still in denial. And until you recognize the reality of this disease, he will not see you. I said, wow. So I was a little disappointed, but I was happy at the same time. So as I was leaving, the physician assistant said, yeah, Dwayne, my mother's diabetic. Do you mind telling me what you did? And so I did. And it was maybe 6 months later, I got a call from her. She was crying on the phone. And I thought, oh my God, her mother died. I'm going to get sued. And she said, Dwayne, my mother is off the drugs, the medication. In fact, they were going to put her on insulin, and she no longer has to go on insulin. And I said, wow, that's fantastic. She goes, yeah. Can you send me some more notes? Because I had a little pamphlet. It was maybe 5 pages. But the questions she had required me to develop a 75-page pamphlet. It was costing me too much money to print the pamphlet. And then my mother said, son, you write a book. And I laughed. I said, yeah, right, Mom. And my daughter said, Dad, you should write a book. Yeah, and I laughed. But finally, when I tried to convince my mother that I should not write the book because there are all these other books written on diabetes, my mother just looked at me and she said, son, what did your father tell you when you were growing up? By the time you have come up with all these excuses and wasted all my time telling me why you can't do something, you could have already had it done. And again, I can't win that battle, people. It was easier to write the book. So I've been somewhat fortunate to have such a great mother and a great daughter. And before we get into the biology of this disease, it's important to understand what causes diabetes. Now, I'm not going to explain this chart to you, but this is what we do. Engineers, we just love creating them charts. And so In engineering, we use different methodologies such as failure modes and effects analysis. We use Ishikawa diagrams, which is basically a fancy name for a fishbone, to basically do root cause analysis so that we understand at the cellular level what's happening with respect to a disease. We do the same thing with electronics and software. And then we love to develop flow charts to try to understand the dynamics of the disease. What are the sequence of events? How does disease actually develop? And again, the only reason why I'm showing you this is just to show, I love pictures. And, but from all of those pictures, and what's really important to understand is that, and I think everyone in this room knows, some of the key factors obviously are nutrition, exercise, your emotional health, your spiritual health, your lifestyle, and all of those are under our control. There are other factors such as your ethnic background, your family background, the healthcare system. All of those you don't really have under your control. And what that leads to, from a biochemical perspective, when you look at this disease at the cellular level, it's basically a disease of insulin resistance, microinflammation, excess oxidation. Those are the underlying mechanisms that fuel diabetes. Ironically, those are the same mechanisms that fuse heart disease, that fuel cancer, that fuels stroke, arthritis, osteoporosis, kidney failure. Now, is it a coincidence that the diseases that I just named happen to be the top 7 diseases, afflictions in America? No, I don't think it's a coincidence. And when you look at some of the other complications, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, chronic fatigue, they're all related, they're all connected to the same disease. The good news is you can choose to be well or be sick. You have that type of control. But what is diabetes?